Now, back to Stacy Taylor on 1700 AM, the new San Diego 1700.
Obama is a Mac daddy. Obama pimps white women and black women. He got started. You didn't notice him till he brought out those big-chested white women with their tight T-shirts and their short pants. That's what a pimp does.
Stacy Taylor Show at 4:07. Somewhat intrigued by the upcoming interview with Dr. James David Manning. He is the pastor at the Atla Worldwide Church in New York City. Graduate of the College of New Rochelle with a Bachelor of Arts degree. Went on to Union Theological Seminary in New York City. Got a Master of Divinity, Doctor of Philosophy degree from Atla Theological Seminary. He's founded several successful ministries and stumbled upon Pastor Manning, as we so often do these days in our cyber tech world, on YouTube. And we have him now on our hotline on the Stacy Taylor Show. Pastor Manning, how are you today?
Just fine, Stacy. How are you?
I'm doing well. As I said, I was researching some of these controversial preachers on the Internet several months ago with the Reverend Hagees and the Jeremiah Wrights et al. Frankly, I wasn't aware of you, Pastor Manning, until I saw several video clips. Clearly, you're very popular out there in cyberspace, and I have to admit I was somewhat entranced by your style and some of the things you said. So you can take that as a compliment.
Thank you very much. I do.
But I do want to get to a couple of things I do want to get to with you on a very serious level. One is Barack Obama and obviously your antipathy toward his candidacy as to be the nominee for the Democratic Party to be president. But let me start with something else, and that is the role of the so-called spiritual advisor that seems to be de rigueur amongst political candidates these days. If you were to ask me, with all due respect to your beliefs and your religions, it seems to me that you just, spiritual advisors sound like something that Margot Kidder might have or some other Hollywood celebrity who's maybe popped too many pills in her life, not necessarily somebody that I want to look to make momentous judgments as the leader of the free world. And then you look at the recent history of McCain and Barack Obama and a few others and the people they've associated themselves with, it looks like it's nothing but trouble.
Well, I think that when you say a person's your spiritual advisor, what you are saying, you're saying several critical things. One is that you realize for your life to be effective, you must have spiritual leadership based on your understanding of who God is and his power as it relates to your life and your opportunity to respect that and to worship that your life is nothing unless you can align yourself with some spiritual ideology. And then beyond that, you're also saying that you can do that without having a spiritual advisor, but then when you say that you have chosen someone to help you understand this most intricate, if you will, and invisible and almost impossible to define idea and notion of what is spiritual and what should be considered spiritual and who is God and how should it be defined. When you allow a person to step into your life to give you those answers, that is a very powerful position. I mean, an extremely powerful position to call someone your spiritual advisor. You trust them on areas that are most intricate and delicate about your life.
Okay, Jeremiah Wright. He, like you, has I'm trying to use these words advisedly, and I think this is appropriate. Have a pretty audacious style. There's something eye-catching about.
That's good.
When I think about radio, for example, you have people are pushing buttons constantly. A commercial comes on, something has to sort of leap out of the dashboard at you in order to catch your attention. Now you have that style, obviously, and so did Jeremiah Wright. What is your specific take on his most controversial comments about God damning America and relating American foreign policy specifically to what happened on 9/11, and whether you thought that was blown out of proportion or not?
By the press or by Wright? That was blown out of proportion.
Well. First of all, do you think his references to foreign policy bringing about 9/11 and the chickens coming home to roost, do you think those comments were blown out?
I don't believe it. I think it was a bit of sensationalism, if you will, on behalf of Wright. I think that he partially believes that America is capable of that. as any right-thinking person would be able to surmise. But on the other hand, I think deep down inside, he does not fully and completely believe it. I mean, if you really believe that, it would be very difficult for him to participate in the American dream as fully as he is participating in. I mean, you'd be horrified at your nation if you thought it did that. But it certainly makes good sermon fodder when you're preaching, and when you're preaching to a bunch of oppressed people and you're trying to make your general message of oppression work. Suggestions such as that America actually destroyed and killed 3,000 people really helps drive home some further and greater points, and I think that's basically what he was doing.
Pastor James David Manning is our guest. You're listening to the Stacy Taylor Show on 1700 AM. Now on to the second part of that question. Do you think then the press blew the whole Jeremiah Wright issue out of proportion?
Well,
it dragged on forever, for crying out loud.
While I'm obviously no fan of Jeremiah Wright or Barack Hussein Obama, I do think that the press saw an opportunity to sensationalize this, and they did. I mean, it just played well to the audience, and perhaps a large number of middle Americans had never heard such fire coming across a pulpit, because most churches have a very quiet Billy Graham kind of approach to them. But to see a preacher fired up like that it was sensational. And the press was able to kind of spin it and use it all to their own corporate coffers, if you will.
Is your ministry in Harlem?
Absolutely. It's right smack dab in the middle of it.
Right smack dab in the middle of Harlem. So you can speak on a couple of other things here then as well. Number one, following up on what you just said, do you think it is that proportion of white America that simply has not been exposed to, I was raised in the Presbyterian church, Pastor Manning, and
right.
They don't even have a pulpit. They have a lectern, and the preacher would give a very sort of a solemn and sober sort of a morality lesson
Absolutely.
or ethics
right.
lesson, and then he would back it up with a little scripture, but there wasn't a lot of hosannas and shouting and, a preacher-choir kind of relationship
right.
going on there. I don't think most of America really has been exposed to that sort of almost a show business aspect that seems to come across in a lot of black churches. You think that's true, and you think that has something to do with the Pastor Wright thing being such a big deal?
I'm confident that it's true. In fact, Wright is a noted speaker across America, even in very conservative Presbyterian seminaries like Princeton Seminary and Princeton University. And he's brought there because he is extremely entertaining. And for people who are in Middle America attending Yale or Princeton, they are intrigued at the things that he says because it just doesn't, there is no reference point for them in their relationship with their church, their rector, or their pastor, with the way he delivers his message. So, yes, it's about sensationalism, but it's also about America just not being exposed to it to a large degree.
Okay, and I assume you're familiar with the lesser pastor controversies that have surrounded John McCain, and that is Pastor Hagee and comments about the Catholic Church being the great whore from the book of Revelation and some more recent comments about the Holocaust.